The following content shared is from the Creator Experience server. This content is not fully indicative of the final product, and there may or may not be changes in the version update that is official. Before we really dig into what I'm going to be talking about today with Boothill, I want to make it very clear, Boothill is a strong character, and that goes to say as far as like hunt characters can go with being strong, because obviously you guys feel some type of way about Zila. I don't, but it is what it is. Anyhow, point being is that Boothill is one of those characters that takes a little bit of getting used to, and I think personally from my perspective, playing Boothill and testing him out for the last couple of weeks has been a little more interesting. It feels closer to Zila, where a lot of players, myself included at one point, were playing Zila as if she was still in 1.0 to 1.3, and the game is just not that game anymore. So a lot of the hunt characters, the hunt path itself feels a little outdated, and in fact it's not. But I will say the hunt path, the characters take a lot more work to pilot. It's less about them having the damage, because it's not like they don't have damage. I mean, Boothill's cracking people for 400,000, 500,000, 600,000. His normal basic attack or skills, the enhanced basic attack I should say, is cracking people for anywhere between 150 to 212,000. So these are things that are happening like normal. That's with one buffer, with two buffers, just depends on how you're rocking the team. And speaking of the team itself, that does go into play on what I'm talking about regarding Boothill. As of right now, I believe Boothill is a strong, solid hunt character, but I think break effect, the meta itself, is just not ready. And in fact, it's a little weak. But let me clarify what I mean by weak. I don't mean weak in terms of damage or damage performance. I know a lot of people might assume that's what I'm going for, and that's not the case. What I mean by weak is that the amount of work you need to do in order to make this team function, the available options you have to use in order to make this team function are lackluster compared to what we have available right now going into version 2.2 or 2.3 of Honkai Star Rail. And so a lot of what we're used to will be missing from the break effect meta. Let me break this down in a team constructive component. So ideally, this will be Boothill's premier team. I know, and I'm assuming players are going to say, well, why can't you replace Mei with Robin? Why can't you replace Trailblazer with Bronya? And I'll go over that in a little bit. But as of right now, this will be ideally the premier team for Boothill. Harmony MC is going to give Boothill Super Break. Now, Super Break is important simply because what Super Break does is once the enemy is broken, it allows you to do all the damage that you would have done on break multiple times. And in Boothill's case, having the basic attack, his fan the hammer, just like McCree from Overwatch, they slam down the hammer on the gun and it pops off 6 bullets, 6 rounds. And that does 6 forms of damage, right? That's 6 different hits. All of those count as damage and is crazy good. On top of the fact that his ultimate has a low cost, you build it up pretty quick. Boothill's kit as a character, a single targeting character, Boothill's kit is very well rounded for his game plan. The problem comes into play where we're moving into the break meta, and the break meta is brand new for a lot of what the game has to offer. I know we've already had Ruan Mei, and I'll talk about her in a bit. Ruan Mei is a character that establishes what would have been a bunch of different things. Break effect, dual DPS, the DOT. So many things that Ruan Mei is great at, but she doesn't really excel at something like break effect. And now we finally get to see that in some of these teams, the different characters, and Harmony MC really brings that to life. But in particular, it's the break effect efficiency that Mei is bringing to the table right now. Of course, all the buffs matter. They definitely help out. And I'm not dismissing the buffs like they don't matter, but I don't want to focus on the buffs because I feel like that's pretty obvious to talk about right now, is that Ruan Mei is going to bring the buffs. Right now, I'm solely talking about the break effect status on her kit, and that applies to Boothill. Actually, the whole team. It helps the whole team break the enemy. So if Boothill breaks the enemy faster, that means that you don't have to deal with that. Now in Boothill's case, because of the way the character functions, when you use skill and you go into the 1v1 with whatever opponent, you have 2 options: kill them or break them. Either of those will give you one of the tokens or the medals. He needs 3, and then once you have 3, you're pretty much fully kitted out for the rest of the game. Max damage, max crit rate, all the fun stuff that Boothill wants to have. Getting there is now considered a ramp up. So if you don't have Ruan Mei, that makes it a lot harder for you to ramp up this character because you're not going to be breaking in 2 shots like you see a lot of the other showcases doing. In the event you don't have anyone else on the team who is on element, you will also not be breaking anybody or having anyone help him break, because thankfully Boothill doesn't have to be the one that breaks the enemy. As long as that enemy gets broken while they're in the 1v1, he will get the medal. Same thing applies to if they're killed, but you cannot break them and kill them. One has to happen before the other. Now, there are some situations where I've been able to do this plenty of times, like with the dog. I'll initiate the 1v1, I break them, and then they die in the same turn, thus giving me 2 medals. And I think that's the easiest and fastest way to ramp up Boothill, but it's not the most consistent due to the fact that you don't know when you're going to one-shot a lot of these enemies. I know it because I've been playing it a lot of the time, and I've just kind of lined up the shot to be able to do that, but that doesn't happen, especially with elites or mob bosses or anything like that. It's usually on the smaller mobs, and right now the dogs have 100,000 HP or 91,000 to be very specific. So if you're not doing 91,000 damage in one attack, you're not going to be able to one-shot them and get double medals. That's where the rest of the team comes into play as far as damage goes. Harmony MC, Ruan May, Gallagher, all 3 different elements that I can cover pretty easily, and they all focus around break effect. Gallagher is able to one-tap somebody with the combination of a basic attack, ult, and then another basic attack on top of Boothill, and then you add Ruan May in there, and they're able to do a lot of break damage very fast, very quick, and almost all of the time within your first attack or your first cycle of the 4 of these characters going, you're able to break all of the characters on screen, give or take one of them depending on if they're the mob. And it really just comes down to how you're playing the character, how you're playing the kit, who's getting hit with ult, who's getting hit with skills, so on and so forth. Most of the time, what players like to do, especially if you're a hunt character, is they like to stack on ult and then skill or ult and basic attack. And they feel like because the hunt path is single target, you have to only focus on one target at one time and then kill them. And that's just not the case. The same goes for Sushong, the same goes for Yangqing, the same goes for Zila, the same goes for Boothill. All of these characters have very intricate ways of being able to be played, and there is an optimal or more efficient way to play these characters so that you can clear the board as fast as possible. So with everyone being explained as to why they're on the ideal team, now we can get into Boothill and the problem with Boothill. Again, it's not his damage, it's the fact that he doesn't have what they have in his kit. If in the event Boothill had Ruan May's break efficiency built into his kit, he would no longer need Ruan May, and you could replace Ruan May with whatever advancing forward Harmony unit you want. Sparkle, Bronya, Robin, doesn't matter, because now he's able to break enemies as fast as he would with Ruan May and still keep whatever Harmony buff, if not have a stronger Harmony buff, given to him in that 3rd slot. If he didn't have that, and let's say they gave him Super Break on his own built into his kit, once he goes into the 1v1, he now can initiate Super Break. That would be very helpful for this character, or just put him in a Super Break status regardless. That'd be esteemed for this character to have, but he doesn't have that. So now it goes into you need Harmony MC, because the problem with the break meta, the problem with Boothill on his own is that he's not breaking fast enough by himself. Once he does break the enemy, he's not doing the damage by himself because break effect cannot crit and all of your things are based around break effect. He has very low attack on most builds due to the fact that you're focusing on speed, you're focusing on break effect, and you're trying to build up attack percent as often as possible, which, you know, is make or break, right? Everybody has different builds. But getting around like a normal DPS, which would be 3,500 attack, or, you know, 3,000 to 3,500 attack, somewhere between 134, but in Boothill's case, he really wants 150 speed minimum, especially if you're running him with Ruan May, so that he could jump up to the 160. Your break effect, you want that around 200%, and if you don't have a signature light cone, it's going to be harder for you to get that break effect. And it's not that you can't get it. There's a 3-star light cone option that definitely helps him get to the 161 speed. It allows you to run attack percent boots, and it's crazy good, but you have to make up for the fact that you're missing a lot of break effect. So there's a lot that goes into building this character that won't be the easiest for a lot of the average players. And now we finally get into what would be for the break meta. If I compare the break meta to DOT, which is something that I think I got a comment for, and they were trying to just give me a different perspective on where DOT was then, how I felt about it, and where we're going now, or rather where it got to now. Back then I said the same thing. I said damage over time is a strong mechanic that could be abused, but it's not ready yet. Once we got Kafka, who was a character that was able to abuse damage over time and be a very strong DPS and pretty much carry DOT forward, that's when DOT became a very strong meta. Before Kafka got into the game, we did have access to DOT. Before Boothill or Harmony MC came into the game, we had access to the break meta. Did players play that? No, because it wasn't strong enough. And now that we have more members or more teammates to be able to play it in the break meta, there's still a problem with the break meta. We're building the team for break meta. Now, there's two different types of players that I'm going to describe here, and I always bring up Hypercarry. I know you guys know it. It is what it is. but you have the hyper carry players who are so focused on like hyper carrying any and everything. And I understand that Boothill, being a hunt character, will naturally fall under the hyper carry team comp. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not even talking about that at all. What I'm pointing out is that when he is the sole damage dealer, he's the main one doing the damage on the team. He has to make up for things that are lacking on the team, or the team has to be so strong they make up for that. In most hyper carry scenarios, you have an advanced forward comp or an advanced forward teammate to make up for the fact that the hunt character is a sole damage dealer and they can move multiple times with this Harmony unit. In the standard Boothill team, you don't have that. So what I decided to do was I tried to replace Harmony Trailblazer or even Ruan Mei with Bronya, and I suffered similar results. What I mean by suffer similar results is like I didn't get the same clears. I suffered the same problem no matter what. If I replace Harmony MC with Bronya, yeah, I can advance forward, and sometimes I'm able to get that 2-cycle clear, just like I am with the ideal team that Boothill has. But other times, or most of the time, I'm not able to do that. In the event that I'm not able to break the enemy as fast, so I have Ruan Mei and I'm able to pilot the team in a way so that I can break them, I have to speed tune Bronya with Boothill so that Boothill goes and then Bronya. Maybe I have to use basic attack at the beginning so I have a hyper fast Bronya. There's a couple different options that you can do. So breaking the enemy isn't the problem. The problem now comes into play when there's damage. Because I don't have Boothill's damage output due to the fact that I don't have the 3,000 something attack plus all the other crit stats and whatever else, my damage is very lackluster. I also don't have the multipliers that some of the other characters do, like Zila, where all my multipliers are based around break effect not being able to crit. And so there's a couple different things that go into Boothill that make it so that my damage is tied to my break effect. The only thing that's doing damage like that, where you see these gigantic numbers, is through super break, at least as of right now. Maybe that can change in the future with a new weapon, a new relic set, or even a new character. After that, I tested it so I could replace Ruan Mei instead. And I did this with a couple different teams, not just Bronya. I tried it with Robin. And again, similar results. If I have an advanced forward, it's easier for me to break the enemy, but I do way less damage. If I replace Bronya and keep Harmony MC, then the team feels a little better, but I need to make up for the fact that I'm not able to break as fast, and my team has to make up for that. So a lot of the times, Harmony MC plus Boothill is very strong together, and then adding Gallagher on the mix pretty much completed that. So it was easier for me to replace Ruan Mei with another Harmony unit than it was for me to replace Harmony MC. No matter the team comp, it still felt dysfunctional in a way compared to the optimal team, which would be Harmony MC, Boothill, Ruan Mei, and then Gallagher. The reason I'm bringing all this up isn't to doom post Boothill, it's to make it very clear that the meta for break effect is strong when it works. When you fulfill the conditions that are required for break effect, it is very strong. But what I mean by it's not competitively viable yet is that if we have a lot of the factors doing 0 cycles or 1 cycles, things like that, Boothill's ideal team comp is not set up to be able to complete a 0 cycle. So now you would have to get into the mix of ignoring his kit and fully doing max attack, max crit rate, no break effect, whatever the case may be, and trying to force something that his kit is not prepared for. But that's stuff that I'll talk about probably in a future video regarding Boothill. If you guys have any questions or want me to test out more team comps or anything like that, let me know. Leave it in the comments down below. Then we can get it into, I was gonna say we can get it popping. Well, we can look into Boothill and figure some stuff out together. Right now, I feel like Boothill is a very strong character. I know I've repeated that multiple times, but I like Boothill. I think this character is cool, and I'm really starting to like hunt characters and appreciate the hunt path a lot more than what I was a few months ago. I'm real positive this is because of the whole Zila stuff that I've been doing for like the last 2 or 3 months, but Boothill is slowly creeping up there right on the alley. I love the animations. I love his ult. I love the character. There's a lot about Boothill is just a stick, regardless of how it spins or how he spins it, right? Spins the fans the hammer, haha. Anyway, I'm gonna pull Boothill. It doesn't really matter. And for someone like me who pretty much has all the characters, having a team and having requirements for the team, it doesn't bother me. If I replace Boothill with Sushong, I could get away with that. If I replace Harmony MC on Sushong's team with Bronya or Sparkle, I could get away with that, and it works out just fine. But I think ultimately, if in the event Boothill suddenly got a character that was like a Bronya but had the ability of super break or had Ruan Mei's break efficiency, that would replace 2 characters on the team for 1 slot, which would then open up Boothill's door for a lot more to be able to happen. Now, I'm not going to tell you guys about the whole dual DPS Boothill blah 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 blah, because quite frankly, I already tried it with Himiko. I don't even like it. I think it's kind of bad, especially because of the fact that using Himiko, you have to take away some of the other team units, Harmony MC or Ruan Mei. But I will end off the video with this. I was able to get a 1 cycle, which was my fastest clear. I could not do a 0, but I was able to do the 1 cycle, and I had to sacrifice Gallagher for Silverwolf. So I pretty much had a full 5-starred out team. I gave Harmony MC Dance Dance Dance, and I think I got it on maybe my second try trying to go for it, and I ended up getting in one cycle. It was a pretty cool run. If you guys want to see it, leave it in the comments down below. I'll post it up or whatever, but it was cool. I wouldn't say that that's the most consistent thing to be telling people to do though. Like I feel like, especially with the game having gotten a little bit more difficult for the average or casual player, which I'm a fan of, not because I want you guys to be punished, but because I want more difficulty in the game. I want there to be a reason to build these characters and like keep grinding for certain relics and gear sets and things like that. But with it becoming more difficult in the game, I feel like we have to start doing things with sustains. It's getting to a point now where I see 0 cycles all the time with no sustain, but I know that's so unrelatable, like barely attainable for a lot of the players, that I'm like, dude, we have to figure out a way to do it with sustain. And maybe 0s just aren't the standard or possible anymore with sustains, at least not for the average team. I don't know. This is all kind of stuff combobulated in my head. Is that a word? I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Smell you later.